Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the Speed Racer Mach 5 build from Polar Lights. I'm guessing it's about 1/24th or 1/25th scale, based on the scale of their other model when they released this as a glue together kit as opposed to the snap tight kit. We're going to go over some of the body prep that I've been doing tonight, as the car needs a bit of work, at least to get the result that I want. As you can see on the box art, the nose, there is no seam on the nose here, or here, or here, much like it's in the animated show, whereas it was all one part instead of two separate pieces. The model has the under part of the nose being part of the chassis, which I have cut off because I plan on, well, I have installed it into the body and I'm removing the seams so that it will all appear after paint to be one seamless part, as opposed to two pieces holding the front end together. The reason I had to cut the chassis is because in order to create the seamless effect I'm looking for, I have to attach the chassis to the body, and it will have to stay together in order for me to paint it and keep everything looking like it's one solid part. Now the problem with that is, in order to install the wheels and tires, they have to be installed on the chassis first. As you can see here, the wheels and tires tuck inside the body of the car, and the fender wells cover the top of the tires. So it would have been virtually impossible to install them after attaching the chassis and the body together. So what I did was I just cut the front of the chassis off and attached it to the front of the body, and that solved my problem. Now I can build the rest of the model on the chassis and then just attach it to the body when the time comes, and hopefully that all works out, because I'm not really sure where the attachment points are for the chassis to the body. I think it all involves the interior and the suspension work, so hopefully that'll all fit correctly. We're going to find out together. Now let's take a look at the nose and what I've done here. As you can see, I've glued the lower portion of the nose to the top, and I've been sanding and polishing the plastic quite a bit tonight, so that even though you can see a bit of the seam line here, it's completely smoothed over. So once I hit it with some primer, there shouldn't be any visible remnants of the seam line, as I also did on the nose cone for both sides. As you can see here, seam line is almost invisible here, and also on the inner parts of the two headlight housings. Now, what I'm going to have to do next is to apply a little bit of putty work to the leading edge of the bodywork here, as there are gaps where they didn't seal completely. So that's going to require a little putty work to fill it, and also will require some putty to fill the hole to where the screw is supposed to mount, that holds the two halves of the car together, even though this kit didn't bring any of the screws to actually do that mounting. And you don't really need them anyway, as the snap tight portion of the kit is such a tight press fit that once you put it together, you'd probably break it trying to take it apart. I'm also have to cover these two holes here, which are basically the openings where if you watch the show, he has two buzz saws that come out of the front of the car. And that is where the glue version of this kit would have you install the arms that hold the buzz saw in the front of the car. As this kit doesn't bring that, I'm going to be sealing that up and sealing up this hole right here in the middle, so that we'll have one smooth, seamless front end. Now, as far as the rest of the body, it is going to require quite a bit of sanding and prep work, as there was a prominent seam, mold seam here. Let me see if I can point that out a little better. It's a prominent mold seam here that you'll have to get rid of, leading to here, and then another seam here over the rear fenders. And that will all have to be sanded smooth. And then I then used a panel scriber to deepen the panel lines. There was a little bit of defect in the mold of the kit here, so I'm going to have to address that. And I did the same thing on this side, where I cleaned off the plastic here, removed the seam, polished it all out to give me a nice smooth finish on the plastic. And did the same on this side, with removing the seam here that ran over the top of the door and smoothing out the edges on those rear air intakes. Also cleaning up the wheel wells that had a little bit of, tiny bit of flash and a little bit of unevenness to them, so they had to be cleaned up. And after this putty work is done, looks like the car will be ready for primer. And that's about it. And that's been the work tonight, just cleaning, sanding, and prepping the body for paint. So far it's actually not a really bad model. Yes, it does need a little bit of prep work to get a good result, but really isn't too bad. It does seem like a higher quality plastic and a better mold than my last project, which was the Knight Rider from Kit, which definitely seemed to be of a lower quality construction than this one. So there you go. That's it for this episode. Just focusing on the bodywork. Speed Racer is one of the shows that broke me into Japanese anime, and one of my favorites. So, back to work, and I guess I'll see you on the next one.